The suitcase hit the floor hard, right in front of the door I had lived behind for over 20 years. You need to leave. This is my house now. Her voice was cold, sharp, final. I stood there, holding my coat, my hands shaking so badly I could barely breathe. The walls around me were still covered with family photos. Photos I paid for, memories I helped build. And yet, I was being thrown out like I meant nothing. This all happened 3 days after she won $85 million. Before I go any further, if you enjoy emotional, powerful stories like this, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss stories that will move your heart and open your eyes. Also, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who is listening. Now listen closely. She stood there smiling. Not a happy smile. A proud one. The kind of smile people wear when they think they've finally won. You heard me, she said again. Pack what you can carry. My son stood behind her. Silent. Not defending me. Not even looking at me. I looked at him and whispered, "Is this true?" He swallowed and looked away. That hurt more than her words. Just days ago, everything was different. She had run into the house screaming, waving a piece of paper in the air. "I won," she shouted. "We're rich." We hugged. We cried. I thanked God. I thought this miracle would bring the family closer. I was wrong. The very next morning, things changed. She stopped greeting me. Stopped asking my opinion. Stopped pretending this was still my home. Then she started calling lawyers. Then she started making plans. Then she started acting like I was in the way. And now, here I was, being kicked out of my own house. "I paid for this house," I said quietly. She laughed. "That was before," she replied. "Things are different now." My son finally spoke. "Maybe it's best you stay with a friend for a while." A while. Like I was a guest in the home I built. I bent down slowly and picked up the suitcase. My heart was breaking, but my face stayed calm. Because while she thought the money had given her power, there was something she didn't know. Something very important. As I stepped outside, she slammed the door behind me. And that was the moment I decided. She had no idea what was coming next. I stood outside the house for a long time after the door slammed. The sun was bright, but I felt cold all over. My suitcase sat by my feet. Everything I owned was inside it. Clothes. Old photos. A few papers. 20 years of my life reduced to one small bag. I knocked on the door once. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. Through the window, I could see her moving around the living room, already changing things. She pulled down a picture from the wall, the one with all of us smiling on my birthday. She didn't even look at it before setting it aside. Like it meant nothing. I walked slowly down the steps and stood by the road, not knowing where to go. I had nowhere. That house was not just a building. It was the place I raised my son. The place I cooked every meal. The place I paid the bills, cleaned the floors, and prayed at night. And now, I was homeless. I called my sister first. She answered, but when I explained what happened, she went quiet. "Oh my," she said softly. "I wish I could help, but my place is full right now." I understood. Or at least, I pretended to. I called an old friend next. She didn't answer. I called another. Voicemail. I sat on a bench near the bus stop and held my phone tightly, trying not to cry. People walked past me, laughing, talking, living their lives. No one knew that my world had just fallen apart. A black car pulled into the driveway of the house. I looked up. 2 men in suits stepped out. Lawyers. My stomach twisted. She was already moving fast. I watched from across the street as they went inside. The door closed behind them. I could almost hear her voice in my head. "Make sure everything is in my name. I don't want her coming back." I wiped my eyes and stood up. I needed somewhere to sleep. That night, I stayed on my sister's couch after all. She made room, even though it was tight. I thanked her again and again. But I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the door slamming. I heard her voice saying, "This is my house now." In the morning, my phone buzzed. It was my son. I answered right away. "Mom," he said. "Are you okay?" I laughed softly. "Do I sound okay?" He was quiet. "She's just stressed," he said. "Everything happened so fast." "So did the lottery," I replied. "But I didn't change." He sighed. "She says the house belongs to both of us now." "And where do I belong?" I asked. He didn't answer. That silence told me everything. Later that day, I went back to the house. I just wanted to get my medicine, my winter coat, a few things I had left behind. When I knocked, she opened the door just enough to look at me. "You can't come in," she said. "I just need my things," I replied. She folded her arms. "You should have taken them yesterday." "I didn't know I was being thrown out forever," I said. She smiled again. That same proud smile. "Life changes," she said. "You should learn to accept that." Behind her, I saw my son standing in the hallway. He looked uncomfortable, ashamed. But he said nothing. She handed me a small plastic bag. Inside were my pills and one sweater. "That's all you need," she said and closed the door. I stood there shaking. Not from cold. From anger. That night, as I sat on the couch again, my sister placed a cup of tea in my hands. "You don't deserve this," she said. I nodded slowly. "No," I replied. "But she's made a mistake." My sister looked at me. "What do you mean?" I reached into my purse and pulled out a folded document I had kept safe for years. A paper no one ever asked about. A paper she never knew existed. And as I unfolded it, I realized something very clear. She may have won $85 million. But she had no idea who really owned that house. I stared at the paper for a long time before I finally read it again. My sister sat across from me, watching my face closely. "What is that?" she asked. "It's the truth," I replied quietly. The paper was old. The edges were soft from time and careful folding. I had signed it years ago, back when my husband was still alive and my son was just starting his own family. Back then, things were different. My husband and I bought that house together. We paid every bill, every repair, every tax. When he got sick, we sat at the kitchen table and made decisions no one wants to make. He was worried about the future. "Promise me one thing," he said one night, his voice weak. "Don't ever let them push you out." I promised. That was when we went to a lawyer. Not to make noise. Not to threaten anyone. Just to be safe. The house was put in my name. Not my son's. Not his wife's. Mine. With one condition. I could live there for as long as I wanted. No one could remove me. No one could sell it without my written permission. I never told her. I never thought I would need to. My sister leaned forward. "Are you saying she can't kick you out?" I nodded slowly. "Legally, no." Her eyes widened. "Then why are you sleeping on my couch?" I folded the paper carefully and put it back in my purse. "Because money makes people loud," I said. And I wanted to see how far she would go. The next morning, my phone rang again. It was my son. "Mom," he said quickly. "She wants to talk." I almost laughed. "About what?" I asked. "She says we should make things clear," he replied. "About the house." I took a deep breath. "Tell her I'll come by." When I arrived, the house already looked different. New flowers. New curtains. Boxes stacked in the corner like she was planning a whole new life. She opened the door and smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Let's be adults," she said. I stepped inside slowly. She sat down on the couch like she owned it. I think it's best if we set boundaries, she continued. You staying here isn't healthy for us anymore. I nodded calmly. I agree. Boundaries are important. She leaned forward. Good. Then you understand why you need to move on. My son stood near the wall, silent again. I looked at him, then back at her. Before we decide anything, I said, I'd like to talk about ownership. Her smile tightened. That's already settled. Is it? I asked. She crossed her arms. We're married. This is our home. I reached into my purse. Her eyes followed my hand. I placed the paper gently on the table between us. What's that? She asked. Something you should read, I replied. She picked it up and scanned the first few lines. Her face changed. What is this? She snapped. It's the deed, I said simply. She laughed once. That's not possible. She kept reading. Her laughter stopped. My son stepped closer. What does it say? She looked up at him, eyes wide. It says, she owns the house. Silence filled the room. That's not true, my son said. We've been paying bills, I finished. Not ownership. She stood up fast. You tricked us. No, I said calmly. I protected myself. Her voice rose. You had no right. I had every right, I replied. I paid for this house. She crumpled the paper in her hand. This doesn't matter. We're rich now. I looked at her carefully. That money doesn't change the law, I said. And it doesn't erase what you did. My son finally spoke. Why didn't you tell us? Because you never asked, I said. And because I trusted you. She pointed at the door. Get out. I stood up slowly. I already did. She laughed again, but this time it sounded nervous. You think this is over? She asked. I met her eyes. No, I said. This is just beginning. As I walked out, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. We need to talk about the lottery money. Urgently. I stopped walking. Because suddenly, the house was no longer the biggest secret in this family. And whatever was coming next was going to be much worse. I stood on the sidewalk for a long moment, staring at my phone. The message was still there. We need to talk about the lottery money. Urgently. I did not recognize the number. My first thought was that it was a scam. People hear the word lottery and suddenly everyone wants something. But something about the message felt different. It was short, careful, almost nervous. I typed back slowly. Who is this? The reply came almost right away. Someone you paid years ago. Someone she forgot about. My heart skipped. I knew exactly who that could be. Years ago, when my husband was sick and money was tight, I had taken a small loan. Not from a bank. From a private office that helped people with paperwork, records, and legal filings. Everything was done properly. Everything was paid back. Or so I thought. I called the number. The line clicked, then a man's voice answered. Professional. Thank you for calling, he said. I was hoping you would. Why are you contacting me now? I asked. Because your daughter-in-law made a very big mistake, he replied. And she doesn't know it yet. My stomach tightened. What kind of mistake? She announced her lottery win publicly before securing her assets, he said. And she didn't read the fine print. I leaned against a fence to steady myself. What fine print? I asked. The part about shared liability, he said. And outstanding claims. I closed my eyes. She kicked me out of my house, I said quietly. There was a pause. Yes, he replied. We heard. That made my eyes open fast. We? I asked. There are others, he said. People she forgot. People who helped when things were hard. I thought of the way she smiled when she told me to leave. The way she said, "This is my house now. What does this have to do with me?" I asked. "Everything," he said. "Because your name is still connected to more than just the house." My grip tightened on the phone. "I want you to come by our office," he continued. "There are documents you need to see." "About the money?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "And about what could happen if she keeps acting the way she is." I hesitated. "I don't want trouble," I said. "You didn't start it," he replied. "But you may be the only one who can stop it." We agreed to meet the next morning. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about the lottery, about how fast money can turn people cruel, about how she had pushed me out without a second thought. In the morning, my son called. "She's furious," he said. "She says you embarrassed her." I almost laughed. "She embarrassed herself. She's talking about getting a lawyer," he added. "Good," I said. "So am I." There was a long pause. "Mom," he said softly, "what's going on?" "I'm finally learning how deep this goes," I replied. "And you should be worried." An hour later, I walked into a small office downtown. The same place I had been years ago. The man from the phone call stood up when he saw me. "You haven't changed much," he said. "Neither has this place," I replied. He motioned for me to sit and slid a thick folder across the desk. "Your daughter-in-law came here yesterday," he said. My breath caught. "She did?" "Yes," he said. "She wanted advice on protecting her winnings." I swallowed. And she signed something," he said calmly. My heart began to race. "What did she sign?" I asked. He opened the folder and turned it toward me. "A temporary financial management agreement," he said. Without fully reading it, I stared at the page. "What does it mean?" I asked. "It means," he said slowly, "that until certain old matters are cleared, her money is not as free as she thinks." I felt dizzy. "She thinks she owns everything now," I whispered. He nodded. "That's why she kicked you out. Power makes people careless." I looked up at him. "What happens next?" He met my eyes. "That depends," he said, "on whether she keeps pushing, or whether the truth reaches her first." I leaned back in my chair, my mind racing. Because now I understood something very important. She didn't just kick me out of my house. She stepped into a trap she didn't even know existed. And if she kept going, the $85 million she was so proud of might disappear faster than she ever imagined. I left the office with my head spinning. The city felt louder than usual. Cars honked. People rushed past me. Everyone looked busy, important, sure of where they were going. I felt like I was walking through a dream I hadn't chosen. $85 million. That number kept echoing in my mind. She thought it made her untouchable. But the man in that office had made one thing very clear. Money does not erase the past. It shines a light on it. When I got back to my sister's place, my phone was already ringing. It was my son again. "She's losing it," he said the moment I answered. "She says you're trying to steal from her." I closed my eyes. "I haven't taken a single thing." "She says you're spreading lies," he continued. "She's threatening to cut you off completely." "Cut me off from what?" I asked calmly. "She already kicked me out." He sighed. "Mom, she's talking about freezing accounts, changing locks, even the house." "The house is still mine," I reminded him. "That's not how she sees it," he said. I sat down slowly. "Then she should start seeing more clearly." There was a pause. "What does that mean?" he asked. "It means," I said carefully, "that she rushed into things she didn't understand." He lowered his voice. "Are you saying the lottery money isn't safe?" I didn't answer right away. "I'm saying," I replied, "that when people stop listening, consequences get louder." That night, she posted online. Pictures. Smiles. Champagne glasses. A caption about new beginnings and cutting toxic people out of her life. I knew exactly who she meant. The comments were full of praise. You deserve it. Live your best life. Don't let anyone hold you back. I stared at the screen, my chest tight. She had no idea. The next morning, my phone buzzed again. A different number. She just called US. Panicked. My heart jumped. I called back immediately. She found out something, the man from the office said. Not everything. Just enough to scare her. What did she find? I asked. She tried to move a large amount of money, he replied. It didn't go through. I sat down hard. She thinks it's a mistake, he continued. But it's not. What happens now? I asked. She's coming back here, he said, demanding answers. I pictured her face. The confidence. The pride. The way she looked at me when she told me to leave. And when she gets answers? I asked. She'll realize, he said slowly, that she needs you more than she thought. I felt a strange mix of fear and calm. I don't want revenge, I said. I know, he replied. That's why this matters. An hour later, my son showed up at my sister's door. He looked exhausted. She's scared, he admitted. I've never seen her like this. Good, my sister muttered from the kitchen. He ignored her and looked at me. She wants to talk. I nodded. So do I. We drove back to the house together. The same house she had thrown me out of. When we walked in, she was pacing the living room, phone in hand, eyes wild. The moment she saw me, she stopped. You did this, she snapped. I took off my coat slowly. I didn't touch your money. Then why can't I move it? She shouted. I met her eyes. Because, I said calmly, you didn't read what you signed. Her face went pale. What are you talking about? She demanded. I stepped closer. The money you think is yours, I continued, isn't as free as you believe. She laughed nervously. You're lying. I shook my head. No. I'm warning you. My son looked between us. What's going on? She turned to him, her voice shaking. Something's wrong with the money. I folded my hands. And if you don't slow down, I said quietly, it's about to get much worse. Her phone rang again. She looked at the screen. Then at me. Her voice dropped to a whisper. They want me to come in. Today. I nodded once. That, I said, is where the truth starts. And judging by the fear in her eyes, she was finally realizing that winning the lottery was only the beginning of her problems. The office was quiet when we arrived. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes every step sound loud, every breath feel heavy. She walked in first, holding her phone like it was the only thing keeping her standing. My son followed close behind her. I came last. She did not look rich anymore. She looked scared. The man from the office stood up when he saw us. His face was calm, serious, like someone who had seen this many times before. Please sit, he said. She didn't sit right away. I want my money released, she said sharply. There's been a mistake. There has not, he replied. She finally sat down, gripping the edge of the chair. You told me everything was fine, she said. He nodded. I told you to read carefully. My son leaned forward. Can someone explain what's happening? The man opened a folder and placed it on the desk. When your wife came here, he said, she signed a temporary financial management agreement. She shook her head. That was just paperwork. It was a contract, he corrected. One that gives us control until all risks are cleared. What risks? She demanded. He looked at me briefly, then back at her. Old connections. Old obligations. And shared responsibility. My son frowned. Shared with who? With anyone legally tied to her past, the man said. Including family. Her head snapped toward me. You put my name on something, she accused. I didn't put your name on anything, I said calmly. You signed it yourself. She stood up suddenly. This is a setup. No, the man said firmly. This is what happens when people rush. She began pacing again. I just wanted to protect what's mine. And in doing so, he replied, you exposed it. My son looked confused. Are you saying she could lose the money? The man paused. I'm saying, he replied carefully, that if unresolved matters come forward, large portions can be frozen. Or worse. Her breathing became fast and shallow. No, she whispered. That can't happen. It can, he said. And it already has. She turned to my son, panic in her eyes. You need to fix this. My son looked helpless. How? She turned back to me. You, she said. You need to tell them you're not involved. I stood slowly. I was involved, I said. You made me involved when you threw me out and tried to erase me. Her voice cracked. I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did, I replied. You just didn't expect consequences. The man closed the folder. There is one way to calm this situation, he said. She stopped pacing. What? He looked directly at her. You need to undo what you did, he said. Publicly and legally. She swallowed. Undo what? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he turned to me. Are you willing to return to the house? He asked. Her eyes widened. My son looked at me, shocked. I took a deep breath. That depends, I said. On what? She asked quickly. On whether you understand, I replied. That money doesn't make you powerful. Character does. She sank back into the chair. The man continued. If she refuses, he said calmly, other people may come forward. What people? My son asked. He hesitated just a second too long. People who noticed the lottery win, he said. People who remember old promises. Her face went white. What promises? She whispered. He met her eyes. The kind you don't remember, he said. But they do. The room went silent. Her phone buzzed again. She looked at the screen. Then she screamed. No, 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 no. She dropped the phone on the desk. I leaned forward and read the message. Formal claim filed. Review required. My son stared at it. What does that mean? The man closed his eyes briefly. It means, he said slowly, this situation just became much bigger. And as she broke down crying in that chair, I realized something chilling. She didn't just kick me out of my house. She opened a door she might never be able to close. She cried in that chair like the money had already disappeared. Not quiet tears. Loud ones. The kind that come when fear finally wins. My son stood frozen beside her, not knowing whether to comfort her or step away. He had never seen her like this. Strong. Loud. Confident. Always in control. Now her hands shook so badly she could barely hold her phone. Make it stop, she begged the man behind the desk. Please. I'll do whatever it takes. He stayed calm. Panic will only make things worse. She looked at me. For the first time since the lottery, her eyes were not sharp or proud. They were desperate. You knew, she said softly. You knew this could happen. I knew you were rushing, I replied. And rushing always costs something. My son finally spoke. What exactly is this claim? He asked. Who filed it? The man opened another folder. This, he said, is a formal notice from someone who believes they were promised financial support years ago. Her head snapped up. That's a lie. Maybe, he said. But it still must be investigated. She stood up again. I never promised anyone anything. I watched her closely. Are you sure? I asked quietly. She froze. Just for a second. That was enough. My son noticed too. What aren't you saying? He asked her. She looked away. The man leaned forward. This person has documents, he said. Messages, dates, proof of contact. Her voice dropped to a whisper. That was nothing. Nothing doesn't file legal claims, he replied. My son took a step back from her. You told me everything, he said slowly. She shook her head. I didn't think it mattered. It matters now, he said. The man closed the folder. This is only the first claim, he said. When money like this appears, others often follow. Her knees buckled and she sat back down. How many? She asked. We don't know yet, he replied. That depends on what else comes forward. She looked at me again. You have to help me, she said. Please. I studied her face. The same woman who smiled when she told me to leave. The same woman who said, this is my house now. I will help, I said slowly. Her eyes filled with hope. But not the way you want, I added. Her face fell. What does that mean? She asked. It means, I said, you fix what you broke first. The man nodded. That includes restoring her place in the home. Publicly. Legally. She swallowed hard. People will talk. They already are, I replied. My son looked between us. Is that really necessary? Yes, the man said firmly. This claim connects family history. Removing her made things worse. Silence filled the room. Finally, she nodded. Fine, she whispered. She can come back. I did not smile. That's not enough, I said. Her head snapped up. What else do you want? I want respect, I replied. And the truth. My son exhaled slowly. You need to tell us everything, he said to her. Right now. She hesitated. Then she spoke. There was someone, she said quietly. From before. I thought it was over. My heart tightened. The man leaned back. It never is, he said. Her phone buzzed again. She looked at the screen. Then screamed. No. There's another one. She slid the phone across the desk. Second claim filed. Urgent response required. My son stared at it, his face draining of color. How many secrets do you have? He whispered. She began to shake again. And in that moment, I understood something terrible. This was no longer about the house. Or the money. It was about who she really was. And the worst truth had not come out yet. The room felt smaller after the second claim appeared on the screen. Like the walls were slowly closing in. She stared at the phone as if it had betrayed her. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. My son reached for her hand, then stopped halfway, unsure if he should touch her at all. Another one? He asked quietly. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I didn't think they would come back. The man from the office leaned forward, his voice calm but firm. This is why we warned you, he said. Sudden wealth brings old shadows into the light. She shook her head. I just wanted a fresh start. You don't get a fresh start by erasing people, I said softly. You get it by facing them. My son turned to her fully now. What are these claims about? He asked. Tell me the truth. She wiped her face with her sleeve. Years ago, she began. Before we were married. I borrowed money. Not much at first. The man nodded. Private arrangements, he said. Unrecorded at the time. I paid some of it back, she continued quickly. Then life got hard. I stopped answering calls. My son stepped back like he'd been pushed. You told me you had no debts. I thought it was over, she cried. They stopped calling. They stopped waiting, the man corrected. They waited for opportunity. Silence fell again. So the lottery, my son began. Put a spotlight on everything, the man finished. She buried her face in her hands. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I took a slow breath. But you meant to throw me out. She flinched. Yes, she whispered. I thought if I controlled everything, nothing could touch me. My son's voice cracked. You hurt her to feel safe? She nodded weakly. That hurt him more than the claims. The man stood up. At this point, he said, the best move is transparency. What does that mean? She asked. It means, he replied, you stop hiding. You stop threatening. You stop pretending money makes you untouchable. She looked up at him. And if I don't? He met her eyes. Then the claims grow. The accounts freeze longer. Investigations deepen. My son ran a hand over his face. How bad can this get? The man hesitated. Bad enough to lose control of most of it. Her sob turned into a scream. No, she cried. I won't lose it. I can't. I watched her carefully. This wasn't fear of poverty. This was fear of losing power. You already lost something more important, I said quietly. She looked at me. What? She asked. Trust, I replied. The man slid another paper across the desk. There is still a way forward, he said. But it requires cooperation. She grabbed the paper with shaking hands. I'll sign anything. He shook his head. Not anything. The right things. What things? My son asked. He pointed to the paper. Restoring her legal residence. Issuing a public correction. And acknowledging family ties connected to the claims. Her eyes widened. Public. Yes, he said. Silence created this mess. Truth is the only way out. She looked at my son. I can't be humiliated like that. My son looked at her for a long moment. You humiliated my mother, he said quietly. In her own home. That landed hard. She lowered her head. I'll do it, she whispered. The man nodded. Good. Because there's one more thing. She looked up slowly. The people filing these claims, he said, are not done talking. Her breath caught. What do they want? He closed the folder. They want to be heard, he said. And they're coming forward soon. My son's eyes widened. How soon? The man checked his watch. Very soon, he replied. Her phone buzzed again. She didn't even look this time. She just whispered, I can't take any more. I leaned closer. You have to, I said softly. Because this is what happens when you think money can bury the past. And as we sat there, surrounded by papers, claims, and broken trust, I realized the next step would not be taken in an office. It would be taken in front of everyone. And when that happened, nothing about her story would stay hidden anymore. The press showed up before she was ready. We were still sitting in the office when the man's assistant rushed in, her face tight with worry. They're outside, she said. Reporters. Her head snapped up. How did they find out? The man sighed. Large claims tied to a lottery win don't stay quiet. Someone always talks. She stood up so fast her chair fell backward. I can't face them. My son looked at her, his voice low. You already are. From the window we could see cameras. Microphones. People waiting for a story. Her hands trembled. This is your fault, she said suddenly, pointing at me. If you hadn't come back. No, my son interrupted sharply. This is because you lied. She froze. He had never spoken to her like that before. You lied to me, he continued. You lied to my mother. And now the whole world is knocking. Tears streamed down her face. I was scared. So was she, he said. And you threw her out anyway. The man stood. You need to decide, he said. Do you hide, or do you speak? She shook her head. I don't know what to say. I stepped forward. Say the truth, I said. It's the only thing that still belongs to you. She looked at me like she was seeing me clearly for the first time. You'd still help me? She asked. I'll help you do what's right, I replied. Not what's easy. Outside, someone shouted her name. She closed her eyes. I'll talk, she whispered. The man nodded. We'll prepare a statement. Minutes later, we stood in a small room near the entrance. She held a piece of paper, her hands shaking so badly my son had to steady it for her. The doors opened. Flashes exploded. Questions flew. Is it true you kicked your mother-in-law out? Are the claims real? Is the money frozen? She swallowed hard and spoke. I made mistakes, she said. I hurt people. I acted out of fear. The crowd buzzed. I removed someone from my home who never should have been treated that way, she continued. And I am fixing that. My son stood beside her, silent but firm. I am cooperating fully, she said. And I take responsibility. That word, responsibility, felt heavy in the air. The questions didn't stop. What about the claims? What about the money? She hesitated, then said, the truth will come out. That was enough to light a fire. By the time we left, her face was pale, her strength gone. Back in the car, she broke down again. I don't know who I am anymore, she sobbed. My son stared ahead. Maybe now you'll find out. When we returned to the house, she stopped at the door. You can come back, she said quietly to me. It's your home. I nodded, but I didn't step inside yet. Thank you, I said. But understand this, coming back doesn't erase what happened. She nodded, ashamed. Inside, the house felt different. Not warm. Not cold. Honest. Later that night, my son sat beside me. They're not done, he said. Are they? I shook my head. No. Because the claims were still open. The investigations still moving. And the biggest truth of all had not yet been spoken. Not by her, but by someone else who was about to step forward. And when they did, the money would be the least of her worries. The knock on the door came just after sunrise. Not loud. Not angry. Slow. Careful. Certain. My son froze in the kitchen. She stopped mid-step in the hallway. We all knew before the door even opened that this was the moment everything had been leading to. I opened the door. A woman stood there. She looked tired, but strong. Her hands were steady. Her eyes were calm in a way that only comes from someone who has already survived the worst. I'm here to tell the truth, she said. She didn't look at the money. She didn't look at the house. She looked straight at my daughter-in-law. And that's when everything finally broke. The woman stepped inside and sat at the table. She spoke slowly, clearly. She told her story without shouting, without tears, without hate. She talked about promises made years ago, about help that never came, about being ignored, about being erased. She placed documents on the table, receipts, messages, proof, real proof. My daughter-in-law didn't deny it. She couldn't. She covered her face and cried, not because she was caught, but because there was nowhere left to hide. I thought money would protect me, she whispered. I thought it would make everything go away. The woman across from her shook her head. Money doesn't erase people, she said. It only shows who you really are. That was it. No shouting. No threats. Just truth. In the weeks that followed, the claims were settled. Quietly. Legally. Fairly. The money didn't disappear, but it changed. It no longer belonged to pride. It belonged to responsibility. My daughter-in-law apologized to me. Not once. Not quickly. But slowly. Over time. With actions, not words. My son learned something too. And so did I. I learned that being quiet does not mean being weak. I learned that patience does not mean surrender. And I learned that truth always waits, no matter how long it takes. She kicked me out of my own house after winning $85 million. But what she didn't know was this. You can buy comfort. You can buy silence. But you can never buy your way out of the truth. If this story touched you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another powerful story. And tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I read every single one. Because sometimes, the biggest lesson doesn't come from losing money. It comes from finally facing yourself.